Hi everyone, my name's Jared, founder of Business Warriors Digital Agency here in Perth, and today I'm talking with Brian Smith, the original co-founder of UGG. He took a $500, from what I understand, the word is online. We started with $500 and you've turned it into now a global brand. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story, Brian, before we start. I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, right?
Right,
And I remember my mum had these wonderful pair of boots, right?
right,
And we used to go and we used to put these boots on and we used to just literally say how comfy and soft they were on the inside. And guess
right.
what brand they were? UGG.
I love it.
So it was
Yeah,
definitely definitely growing up, it was definitely in my world. So
yeah. Hey,
um
Jared,
but
the one thing that's consistent is everybody tells me their story of the first pair of Uggs, and that's a classic. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, isn't it funny, right?
Yeah,
So, Brian, take me back to like the start, right? So, like you started from what I've seen online, you've started back in the 70s, I think it
yeah.
was, UGG,
Yeah,
and
78,
you
79. Yeah,
78, 79, and you started with $500, right? And basically, you're in the back of you're in your van selling to surfers and things like that, right? So take me back to that time. Like, what
sure.
sort of kept you going? Because you speak a lot about like challenges you went through and things
Yeah,
like that. Like, mentally, what
yeah,
was it like for you back in those days, sort of getting started with, not a huge budget, right? And
yeah.
you're trying to make this happen.
Oh, no, for sure. Well, just going back real quick, I was an accountant and graduated after 10 years and quit. And I came to America looking for a business to take back to Australia. I didn't plan on doing Ugg boots when I came to America. And I was 4 or 5 months cruising around Southern California looking for the next big thing, the next billboard or the next newspaper or the next, Wall Street Journal story. And it wasn't until about 5 months where the winter had sort of come on, and I just finished surfing at Malibu, and I was pulling on my Ugg boots that I'd brought from Australia because my feet were so cold. And I just had this goosebump moment. I'm like, oh my God, there are no sheepskin boots in America, and 1 in 2 Australians wears some sort of sheepskin footwear. So instantly I knew what the business program, and like every entrepreneur, it was, oh my God, I'm going to be an instant millionaire, right? And so we, me and a buddy, we sort of borrowed $500 and we sent it down to Australia to one of the factories, and they sent 6 pairs of samples over, and Doug went on the road and went to every single shoe store in Southern California and got shut out 100%. They were just, wow, sheepskin in California, that'll never work. And after a little while, when you hit a wall like that, you have to figure a way around it or over it. And it struck me, well, all my buddies up at Malibu think this is a brilliant idea. And it struck me that so many of them had been to Australia on their surf trips and they bought a half a dozen pairs back for their buddies. So in the surf community, it was really well known. And there are 60, 70 surf shops along the coast. So Doug and I decided to go after to the surf shops, and it was at first they were all going, "Oh my God, you're going to make a fortune!" But when we finally got the product in and went back to them, they go, "Oh well, great job, Brian, but we couldn't sell them in our store. They're way too expensive." And so my first year's sales, we'd bought 500 pairs for how successful we were going to be. The first year's sales was 28 pairs. And so that was like the first big shock about, okay,
Mm.
what have I got hold of? Should I give it up or should I keep going?
And how did you handle that as well too? Because I think like a lot of entrepreneurs can probably relate as well too to their first years and go, like these types of setbacks is like I've bought 500 SKUs
Yeah.
and now I've only sold 28. How did you deal with the that mentally when you
Yeah,
went
well,
through that?
years later, I wrote a book called The Birth of a Brand, right? And the
Mm,
theme of that is that you can't give birth to adults. And every entrepreneur has the aha moment and then they do the first action and that's the birth. Like, so me buying six pairs
Mm,
of samples was the birth of UGG. But then every
mm,
business just lies there and it lies there
mm,
in this infancy and you got to keep feeding it and changing the
mm.
diapers, and it just lies there. And a lot of entrepreneurs give up during that stage because they think the big aha moment was no good because nobody's interested. But eventually, if you keep doing the right thing day by day, it'll start toddling. And your
Mm,
friends are, telling all their friends, and magazines are writing articles about you, and that'll quickly go into the youth phase where you've got good sales and productions working and accounting and shipping and everything, and you can run a 5, 10, $15 million company in that youth phase. But if it gets to be a
mm.
really good product or service, you're going to hit the teenage years, and all sorts of shit can happen, by getting going too fast too early.
Hopefully
So,
not too much rebelling, huh?
yeah. So that's the theme that I found. And so I
Mm,
believed, number one, that it can't be the product's problem because 1 in 2 Australians wears some sort of sheepskin footwear, right? So it's not the product. So it's got to be me. What am I doing wrong? And that set me on a 3 year path of getting summer jobs, for 3 years in a row, and then coming back into the marketing and running ads and trying to sell more surf shops. And it was not
mm,
until the fourth or fifth year that I realized my advertising. I just had these beautiful models on the beach wearing UGG boots. And I finally
mm,
got these young surfers that told me, man, they're so fake. Those models can't even surf, And I realized, oh my God, after 4 years, I'm sending the wrong message to my target market. And I switched
mm,
over to a couple of young guys who were that there was amateur surfers just turning pro. So in
mm,
today's parlance, they would have been called influencers back 50
mm,
years ago, right? And so I ran a
mm,
few ads with them and the sales just went through the roof. Went from 20,000, 25,000, 30,000. Then the minute I ran those new ads, it went to $220,000, right? So what I realized was that my whole marketing and advertising was wrong, and I had to create ads that people would want to be in the photograph, right? Or run a website that where the people wanted to be inside your website because it was so much a part of what they wanted to be belong to, And so
mm, mm,
that I was able to parlay that same methodology into snowboarding, and I got all these young
mm,
snowboarders, and then back east, I was stumped because I didn't know what they did in winter time, but I finally found out they play ice hockey, right? And that market's twice as big as surfing. And so when I got the ice hockey market, youth again, using the youth and the kids, when I got that going, it was like, oh, mom, all the cool kids at high school have got a pair of UGG boots, and I need some for Christmas. And so the bottom line is it took 5 years, but the minute I hit that formula of going after the young kids and making it a fad thing, they took it and picked it up. And man, if you didn't have a pair of Uggs at high school, you were just not cool. And that was the secret of the beginning of the huge rush on Uggs.
mm. So like the tipping point in your marketing from what you were saying is purely just that one conversation that you had
Yep,
with the surfers
yep.
saying how fake it was and stuff like that. And they were your target market, right?
That's exactly right. The ads I'd been running for
Mm.
3 years were alienating. Like, I will never buy a pair of those Uggs. Look at those models. They can't surf. I had no idea that I was doing that to myself.
Mm. And was there like I mean just sort of wrapping up today as well too, like a lot of our business owners we work with, they're local businesses, some of them, and then they want to build multi-location businesses. Some want to go
Right,
national, some even want to go global in some cases as well.
right.
What's the number one thing that you would say to them to avoid in terms of mistakes? What do you see happen often in this sort of area of business where someone's looking to either go nationally or globally?
Yeah, well, to go national or global, you must have been in business for quite a while and have a following because
Mm,
you can't take an unknown product and just go national. No one's going to walk in the door. So
mm,
my best advice would be something that I never had. I didn't understand finance, right?
mm,
So me trying to finance the growth in production was always a nightmare because I could always sell more than I could afford to buy. And that was because I didn't have anyone on my team who understood the forward look. Even though I was an accountant, I didn't understand the forward looking financial needs of the company. If my program worked, I didn't know the financial ramifications. I thought if it worked, I'd have twice as much money. But in fact, when a big sales program, especially if it's a product-based business, the more successful you are, the quicker you're in the shit for having lack of inventory, right?
mm,
So I had to learn, financing, and that would be my advice to anyone, especially if you're going to go in the retail situation, because you've got
mm,
to know what the break-even point and the profitability of every location is, and have the financing to build it. It's not a job that goes lightly. You have to have pretty much a completely national presence before you go and put stores up.
mm, mm. Thank you so much for your time today, Brian. I really appreciate it. I know our audience will love what's been said today, and thank you so much for your time.
Hey, Jarrod, my pleasure, buddy. I hope to see you again.
I'm sure we will, hopefully.